Hello everyone and welcome back to another Unreal Engine tutorial for blueprints optimization. In this video, we are going to learn how to create enemy health bar that will appear above enemy's head when you are close and disappear when you are far away. So let me show you. We will also learn how to damage the enemy and update the health bar accordingly. In this video, we are not going to use any casting, binding or event tick because these nodes impacts your game performance heavily. This tutorial is going to be long because programming optimization takes time and effort. So I will show you how to make games that are production ready. Alright, let's get started. Okay, so open up your content drawer. I have a folder main, so I'm going to put my actors here. So let's right click and go to blueprint class. So we need to create first the enemy. Let's call this enemy. Open it up. Now click on the mesh on the right side. For the skeletal mesh, you can type money. So we are going to use the money mannequin. Let's rotate it for the minus 90 degrees and put it down for 90. And for animation, let's go to anim class. Just type ABP for animation blueprint, money. Okay, so this is going to be our base enemy. Now let's create a widget blueprint for the enemy health bar. Open up the content drawer. So I have a folder here for heads up displays. So right click, user interface, widget blueprint, and I'm gonna call this enemy underscore HUD. Open this up. Now it's all empty. Instead of using canvas panel, like any other tutorials are teaching you to do it, this is not good for optimization. I have a whole tutorial explaining in depth, so never use canvas panel. I will click this and delete. Instead, we're going to use overlay. So click and drag overlay. And you can rename this overlay, enemy underscore overlay. Now get the progress bar, click and drag onto the overlay, and for a horizontal and vertical alignment, stretch out throughout the whole screen. And you can rename this progress bar, enemy health underscore progress bar. Now this is going to be too big on the screen. What we can do is get a spacer. So click and drag onto the overlay. So go to the top right corner over here. So desired on screen. Now you see this is going to be too small. So in order to extend this properly, click on the spacer. As you can see, the spacer is this over here in the top left corner. So let's make it horizontal and vertical throughout the whole overlay. And you can click and drag to extend it. So maybe something like 305. Now let's go back to the enemy. Go to add and type widget. So we need the first one, widget. So let's rename this widget, enemy health underscore widget. So it's going to be centered in the middle of the character. What we can do is go to perspective and front. So let's put the widget a bit up. And what we need to do is on the right side, we need to draw out desired size. So that way, what we have done here is going to be reflected onto the player. So at the moment we have 300 by 5. What we also need to do is to assign this widget. So at the moment we don't have anything. So go to the widget class and we need enemy HUD. Now if you drag and drop the player onto the level, now when I play the game, this is the widget. So this is not good, obviously. We're going to fix it now. Now what we want to do is, every time when we are close to the player, this health bar to face us. So if you go around, the health bar to follow us. Now let's go back to the enemy. So this user interface space needs to be screen, and that way it's going to be always facing our player. And also you got the size that we have adjusted. So anywhere you go like this is going to follow our player camera. Now let's adjust this health bar. Now let's go to the HUD. So let's put here something like 30, and this one something like 200. Now when you play the game, it looks much better. Okay, exit the game. Now let's go back to the enemy. So let's go to the perspective. What we can do is we can add another component. So type collision box. So for this we're going to use sphere collision. And we are going to rename this sphere collision show health underscore trigger. So also for optimization, do not use the scale tool over here when you are dealing with the collision boxes. I have also another tutorial for that, so you can check it out. When you scale collision box or trigger boxes, always use the radius. So if you are having a sphere collision box, you can adjust the radius. If you have a box collision, just to quickly demonstrate, so collision box, you have box extent. So you have X and Y and Z. Okay, I'm going to delete the box now. So again, don't use the scaling tool, but use the shape over here. So let's make this a bit bigger, something like 500. Now let's make it visible in the game. So type hidden and hidden in game. Now let's play the game to see if you're seeing this shape. Okay. Now let's go back to the enemy. So by default, we want the health bar to be hidden. So select the health bar and type in the top right corner hidden. Now when you play the game, by default, we don't see the health bar. We want to see when we are overlapping this sphere. Back to the enemy. Delete these nodes, we don't need them. So select the trigger box and scroll all the way down. We need begin overlap and end overlap. So for the begin overlap, select the trigger box again and end overlap. Now again, select the show health trigger and type collision. So in the collision presets, open this menu and go to custom. So make sure to ignore it all. And when you see here pawn, make it overlap only pawn, because you don't want to shoot a projectile or something else to trigger these functions. Okay, so click and drag this enemy health widget. And from here, type set hidden. Select this and Ctrl D to duplicate. Let's just put this aside. So we want only our player character to trigger this. Instead of using this, like any other tutorial, cast to first person character. This is not good for optimization. I have also another tutorial for that. Instead, we can use tags. So from other actor, drag a pin and type has tag. So actor has tag. And from here, we can type here player. And from this return value, which is boolean, hold down B key to call a branch, or right click and just type branch. It's here. And connect this condition with the execution pin. Now with an actor that has a tag of player, which is going to be our player only, if it's true, we're going to show this widget. So this is hidden. If you check this, it's going to be hidden. So if you uncheck, it's going to be displayed on the screen. Now let's see if this is working. Now if I come close to the player and overlap this sphere, I see the health bar over there. But if I go back, it should be removed. But one thing I did before, I didn't show in this tutorial, I'm gonna show you now. How we came up with this player tag. So open up your content drawer and you need your first person character. So open up your first person character. So select this first over here. In the top right corner, type tag. So we have here tags and we have here player. So let me show you from the beginning how to do it. So simply select the first one over here, type tag, where it says advanced tags, click on the plus button and type player. So that way Unreal Engine knows that this blueprint, which is our first person character, it has the tag of player. So compile and save. We don't need this first person character anymore. So if any actor with a tag of player, which is us, we're going to show this health widget. If it's false, if it's something else, nothing's going to happen. Now let's do this for the end overlap to hide the progress bar. So you can do the same thing, copy these two, Control D. So other actor, which is us, the player. So we have here new hidden. Check this box and let's see if it's working. Now we have much better setup. Now if I play the game and if I want to shoot this player, let's see how we can communicate between HealthBar and our projectile without casting, without get all actor from class or get actor from class. For this, we need to create a blueprint interface. Okay, so exit the game. Let's open up the content drawer. I have a folder here for interfaces. Right click, go to blueprints over here, and we need blueprint interface. And call this enemy underscore interface. Now I already have created, so I'm gonna name this interface 2. So double click to open it up. Now we have one function created. Let's name this function damage enemy. So this is all we have to do over here. Let's go compile and save, and you can close this up. Now in the enemy blueprint, in the event graph, go to the class settings. On the right side we have interface, so go to add. So type enemy. So we have enemy interface 2. Now we have on the left side damage enemy. So double click. So just for testing purposes, from here you can drag a pin and type destroy actor. So destroy actor self. When you call this blueprint interface, we're going to destroy this actor, which means the whole enemy is going to be destroyed. So compile and save just to test it out. For this we have to go to the projectile, so open the content drawer. So in the first person folder, go to blueprints, open up the projectile. Now I already have created everything before, so I'm gonna delete this for now to explain to you. From the initial setup you're going to have, it's this, so you can just pull it aside or simply delete it. So event hit, when the projectile hits something. Let's see how we can trigger this over here from the enemy. So from order, drag a pin. We're going to also use tags. We're not going to use any casting. So type has tag. So actor has tag. And this time we're going to need tag of enemy. So type enemy. So why tag of enemy? This projectile is ours. So when we shoot this projectile from the gun, if we hit some other actor that is with a tag of enemy, we're going to do something from here. So call a branch again. And now instead of casting, again I'm going to mention because it's really important not to use casting. So how can we call this blueprint interface without casting or anything like that? So when our projectile hits something with a tag of enemy, from here if it's true, you can right click and you can type damage enemy. So don't be confused because before I have created another interface for this tutorial, but you're going to see one interface. So because I have created enemy interface 2, I'm going to use this one. So with this, you are calling the function from the interface we have created. So connect from the true. And now, how the projectile will know what is this doing? Well, from this order, this is actor object reference, you can drag a pin inside the target. Okay, I'm gonna just make a reroute node. So let's see again. When our projectile hits something with actor that has tag of enemy, if that is true, we can call this damage enemy blueprint interface. And the target is going to be that actor that has enemy. So these three are going to be triggered only if this tag has enemy. So let's go to the enemy, select enemy self, type here tag, and you can put this name of enemy. So compile and save, and back to the projectile. And now this is the way how you are communicating between blueprints. So now when the projectile hits something with an actor that has tag of enemy, then you can call this damage enemy interface, which is living in the enemy. So let's see if it's working. When you play the game now, when I shoot the projectile, I should destroy the actor. Okay, now let's destroy the projectile as well. Okay, so back to the projectile. You can right click and type emitter at location. So I can spawn a small explosion here when we are going to destroy the projectile. And also right click and sound at location. So if you want to have a sound when you're exploding the projectile, you can add it over here. And on the end, right click and type destroy actor. So destroy itself, it means this projectile is going to be destroyed when you hit something with the enemy tag. Now the location of the explosion is going to be from here. So hit location, you can simply click and drag over here. So double click to make a reroute node. Compile and save. Now let's see if this is working. Okay, I forgot to assign the explosion. So I'm just gonna add the default one. But now when I shoot, I want to destroy the projectile as well. Anything I hit. So the projectile will explode with the visual effects and sound only if you are hitting the enemy actor with the tag of enemy. You can simply from the files click and just add it over here. So that way, if you do like this, now let's see if it's working. Now it's working much better. Now make sure if you go to the collision component of the projectile, just type collision and make sure you have all block over here. Because by default, I believe this is ignored. The pawn is ignored just to prevent of hitting your own player. Now let's see how we can communicate the health bar of the player. Now let's go back to the enemy. Now we know that this is working. So as a reminder, from the projectile, when you hit something with the actor that has tag of enemy, which is our enemy, we're going to fire this blueprint interface. Now we're going to delete this. Now let's open up the content drawer and go to the blueprint interface. Now we need two functions. So let's add one here. So add function and type get health. So for this, we are going to need input. So type here health and the variable type is going to be float. So compile and save. And we need one more function. We need set health. And for this, we're going to need input. So it's automatically float. Again, type here health. Compile and save. And now we have two more functions in the same blueprint interface. So let's close this up. Now we are in the enemy HUD widget blueprint. Select the progress bar and let's go to the percentage. Let's make it all the way like this. Let's see how we can communicate this without binding. So when I say binding, I mean this function here. Never do this because this is running on event tick. So why you should avoid this. This runs on event tick and it will tick like crazy throughout your whole game. And this will impact heavily on performance. Compile and save. Now go to the graph. Again, I have set this up from before. Now I'm going to delete this to show you from the beginning. So in the enemy HUD, you can delete this, you don't need it. Select the class settings. On the left side, we have implement interface and type enemy. So we are importing the interface that we have created. Double click on the set health. Now let's create a variable. So if you're not familiar with the blueprint interface, this is coming from here. So enemy interface. So this is a set health with the input from here. So click and drag and let's promote a variable. So it's going to be health. So I'm going to detach this for now. Compile and save. So we have a variable of health in the bottom left corner. We can just type 100 for 100 health. Now if you go to the get health, there's another tab opening. We have to click and drag the health variable we have created. So this is the way how we can get this health. I will show you in a second. So we can exit this get health tab. So from here, click and drag the health variable and get health. And drag a pin and type plus. So connect this health with this one. And execution pins. So we want the health to go from 0 to 100. So the way to prevent the health to go lower than 0 and higher than 100 is to drag a pin and type clamp. So we need clamp float. So minimum is going to be 0 and maximum is going to be 100. So the return value is going to go into that set. So from here, again, instead of binding, what we can do is get the enemy health progress bar and select get, type set %. So we are setting the percent of the progress bar. Next, we have to click and drag and type divide. So we need to divide the final output with 100 and connect with the set %. So why we are doing this? Because the progress bar is going from 0 to 1, but we need health to go from 0 to 100. So that way, this is converting to be working properly. So compile and save. And now with this setup, we can either heal or damage the enemy. And I will show how in a second. So set %, okay. And from the final output from here, type equals. So if the health is 0, hold B to call a branch. If the health comes to 0, we want to remove this from parent. So we don't want this widget to exist anymore. So right click and type remove from parent. Remove from parent. So to make sure this is working, let me just add a print string between. So from here type print string. And we're going to write here player dead. So compile and save. So we have the same blueprint interface using in the two different places. If you remember, in the enemy blueprint, we have this event damage enemy, and we have the same functions over here. But we are not going to use them all. So in the enemy HUD, we are using set health and get health. Now let's go back to the enemy blueprint. As a reminder, when the projectile hits something, we are going to trigger this. Now how can we communicate this health bar with this blueprint interface and with this function we have created? So in the enemy blueprint, from the damage enemy, click and drag enemy health widget. And from here type get user widget object. So now from here, we're going to be able to call the blueprint interface. So from here we need set enemy health. So again, I have these two interfaces from before. So I'm gonna select this one, the second, and connect. And now here we're going to put plus or minus. So if you type here minus 20, for example, we're going to reduce 20 from the player health. And this is coming from the enemy HUD. It's coming from this setup. Now compile and save. Now let's see if this is working. Now let's shoot the player to see if it's updating. And you see in the top left corner, player dead. Now let's finish the setup. I have to go back to the enemy HUD to remind you something. So this get health is going to help us to check how much health we have. And this we can use it globally. So from here, from the get user widget object, if you type get health, so get health, and now we're going to use the get, the same as if you did like this, the same as if you did like this get, except we are using it through blueprint interface globally. So we are shooting the projectile, we are hitting the enemy, we are taking 20 of its health, and then we are checking if the enemy still has health. So if this is coming to 0, if enemy's health is 0, so call a branch. And now if this is true, let's simply right click and destroy the actor. So we are going to kill the enemy. But if you want, you can add something else, something like a ragdoll. You can kill the enemy in a different way. It's entirely up to you. Now let's see if it's working. We have player death and everything works properly. But if you want for some reason to heal the enemy, you can type here something like 5. And now when you shoot the enemy, you're going to give 5 health. Because in the enemy HUD, we have made this plus. So with this setup, you can easily add or reduce health to the enemy. Now if I'm going back to the game, if I shoot him, I'm adding actually health. This is the proper way how to make enemy health bar and how to update enemy's health. So with this setup, you can easily make the game production ready. You don't need to use casting, binding, event tick, get all actors of class. These nodes are performance killer. Remember that. This is a production ready setup. Okay, so this is going to be it for this video. Thank you for watching and I will see you in the next one.